Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, before you hit that fast forward button, these are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. I trust them. You should trust them too. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors, particularly if you haven't been using them. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to K-12 Sports Tech for sponsoring our Wednesday Wisdom segments. K-12 Sports Tech helps athletic directors and sport vendors connect through education and hands-on consulting services. Athletic directors are also invited to join the K-12 Sports Tech AD think tank and help influence how companies shape their tech to better serve schools. To get started or find out more information, all you have to do is go to k12sportstech.com. That's k12sportstech.com. We'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. It's probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an AD, our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. To find out more, just go to sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Gipper. You know, your students are on social media, and if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team is going to have you creating world-class content in seconds. It's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college programs, and it's professional graphic design made easy. How easy? So easy, even I can do it. That's Gipper.com. We want to say thanks to our friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. We'd like to thank Ohio University and their online master's degree in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at the same time. For more information, just go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We'd like to thank Hometown Ticketing. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider for schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more, but I will. Whether it's more support, more security, or more customization, the Hometown team is here to help you make the best online ticketing solution. Hometown Ticketing, it's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to thank our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to showcase your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We want to thank our good friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. Our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our kids loved the videos, our parents loved the streaming, but there is so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a very small group that only wants to complain. Athletic surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% that supports your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have, especially when you're talking to a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They'll create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And we want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day. Things like scheduling, scores, rosters, communication. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the cost. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We are going all the way across the ocean to England, and we're going to be visiting with Jenny Devonshire. Jenny is a professional coach. She's the founder, excuse me, of Pause2Perform. She's going to tell us all about that, but I'm excited to have her share today because, and I'm talking to you now, listeners, as athletic directors and coaches, we don't always do the best job of taking care of ourselves. We're busy coaching other kids and other coaches. So I'm excited to hear what Jenny has to share. Jenny Devonshire, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Well, you and I were talking, it's a busy time, but if you could share a little bit with our listeners about your background, because it's quite impressive. And then I'm excited to hear about, what you're going to share with our listeners today. But what's the Jenny Devonshire story?
Right. Well, I started off, I've always been into fitness or exercise. I grew up with gymnastics and horse riding. And then I had a problem with my knee when I was about 17 and I had to give up the horse riding. Then I discovered the gym and absolutely loved it. And so that was been a big part of my life for a long time. I went to uni and I studied psychology, which is another massive passion of mine. I was just found, the topic is so interesting. Humans are so interesting. So I did that at my undergrad. I knew I wanted to do something with it, but I wasn't sure what. I thought about sports psychology, but at the time, I wasn't sure if it would lead into a job. So I kind of parked that, moved to London, got a job in an office, which I absolutely hated. Being stuck at a desk all day is not for me. And it was such an unhealthy sort of environment as well. It was in insurance. So everyone was massively into drinking, eating really badly. And they all thought I was weird because I went to the gym and ate fruit. And so then I decided I was going to the gym a lot. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to train as a PT because why not make my passion into my career? So I trained and then I eventually, well, it was like a lack of confidence held me back for a while, but I eventually got a job as a PT. And I remember my friends saying that the difference in me was just, they couldn't believe it because I was like a different person because before I was like dreading going to work and having Sunday fear from Saturday. So it was like, yeah, I loved going to work. And then I would have this thing about wanting to sort of upskill, increase my knowledge and things like that. So I did my Pilates qualification because everyone had back problems that I was seeing. Everyone was working in office. Everyone had the similar things. Then I did my yoga just because I loved it. And then I still felt like there was something missing because I had some clients who were super motivated. They would do all the exercise, they'd change their diets, all these things. And then other people would come and see me once a week. And then it was like, right, tick box, done my health and fitness, job done, don't do anything else. And I realized that there's so much more to it. And it brought me back to the psychology again. And so I did, in the pandemic, a bit of a whim, I decided to do a master's in sports psychology, which I absolutely loved, got really into that. And then I discovered that exercise psychology was a thing. And so I'm now training to become an exercise psychologist. And so I'm bringing together the sort of still the physical side of it with the personal training, but the psychology to help people to implement behavior change because it's not about discipline. It's not like people are just lazy or things like that. It's very complicated. And I'm really passionate about helping people to actually put their health first because it's very important. Once that's gone, it's kind of game over. So that's kind of where I am now.
Well, again, you and I talked a little bit as a career educator myself, and health teacher, wellness teacher, and training. It just fascinates me the various factors that you mentioned that impact somebody on as they are in their own journey of life, but also, trying to keep their, as I like to say, keep their machine running smoothly. Um, in your experience, okay, I think people outside of the profession, they hear wellness and they think of one of two things. It's either nutrition or it's exercise, and they don't think of the other components. What are some things that you do with your clients that come in with that mindset, let's say, to let them see, hey, there's a lot more to it than just, eating right, which is important, and also getting the right kind of exercise. How do you work with some of those clients?
Well, it's kind of understanding that there's like the kind of the pillars of performance and health. So sleep is the sort of foundation of mental and physical health, and most people aren't getting enough. And I had insomnia for years, so I know what it's like to have bad sleep. It's like life is so much harder, and so even if you're exercising when you're absolutely exhausted, it's not going to be as beneficial as if you slept well. If you're eating really well, it still is not going to counter out the sleep. So sleep is really, really important. So I make sure that we kind of nail that first before you try and change anything else, because if you're not sleeping well, then everything else, it's the most important thing, I would say.
Let's go and follow that train of thought. You recently posted a great article on sleep and its impact on health and wellness. I think from an athletic standpoint, coaches, pick your sport. It doesn't matter. You mentioned gymnastics and riding, but there's the physical training, the technique training, all of those aspects. But I think one of the most neglected parts of training is rest and recovery. And that certainly is exactly what we're talking about for, let's say, the average person who's no longer an athlete, but sleep is their rest and recovery. What are some ways, and I guarantee you, we've got a coach or an athletic director right now who's listening that is probably struggling, not getting enough sleep. I can look back at my own career when I was, heavy into coaching, that was where you made the sacrifice. You're staying up late and you're getting up early.
Yeah.
What are some of your tips, some professional tips for our listeners to try to, focus on getting more sleep so they can perform better?
Yeah, so one of the two of the sort of major ones is one, allowing yourself to have an 8 hour sleep opportunity. So some people, if you're not in bed for 8 hours, there's no way that you're going to get 8 hours sleep. So I guess it's kind of all realizing the importance of it to make sure you prioritize it, but make sure you are going, if you know you've got to be up at 6, make sure that you're going to bed at 10. But at least you're giving yourself the chance. And then the one thing that had the biggest impact for me is getting off devices. So many of us were sitting on our phones, watching TV. So you're really stimulated, especially if you watch like a crime series or something like that, that's quite sort of, or even working, your brain's going, going, going. And then you expect to just turn it off and then go to bed and be able to sleep. And you wonder why you can't, because everything's still sort of so alert. So I found like it doesn't have to be that long. I mean, ideally it would be like an hour or so, but just getting off your devices, maybe whatever you like to relax. So you could read, having a hot bath or shower can help, or even just doing some breathing, just focusing on breathing in and then extending your exhalation. And I've worked with quite a few people, and just that one change had a huge impact to their sleep, and they found that they were falling asleep better, staying asleep. And yeah, so that's the one thing I would definitely recommend.
That's going to really be on point for our listeners, because as coaches and teachers, we're always trying to get our students here in the States, off of their devices. Some schools have actually started programs where they collect their phones first day or first thing in the morning, and they don't have them throughout the day. As we mentioned, wellness has so many aspects. The old wellness wheel model had the spokes. Um, Nutrition and eating is something that's certainly part of wellness. And I think athletic directors and coaches, particularly athletic directors, you're busy all day, you might be teaching, then you coach your own team, and then that evening there's some kind of competition at your school. And so you end up having that athletic director dinner, a hot dog, a bag of chips, and a soda. And night after night, week after week, that can take a toll on your machine. What are some tips that you give, whether it's a busy businessman or woman or your clients? How do you help them to put better fuel in their machine.
It's funny you say that actually. I remember when I was working as a PT and I was working across a couple of locations and I fell into that trap. It's so many PTs do this. They have to work early mornings, late at night. So I felt like my clients were actually fitter than me at one point because I was doing exactly what other people do and just like living off sort of food on the go and just felt awful. I think the main thing is being prepared. That's like getting food on the go that's decent is really hard. So making sure that you're taking food with you so that you're not caught short and having to have like I say, a hot dog. So if you're kind of got time at the weekend, if you can make sort of batch cook and have things handy to take, set yourself up with a good breakfast because a lot of people they skip breakfast and then you'll sort of get hungry later and then you go to like those sort of unhealthy snacks. And just also making sure that you're getting enough protein because we know that that's really good for satiation, but also we need it for muscle building, muscle repair, and a lot of people aren't eating enough. So I think mainly being prepared, but just ensure you're trying to get those sort of whole unprocessed foods as much as possible, and don't leave it so that you're having to grab sort of a packet of crisps or something on the go.
Yeah, I love that word. You said be prepared. Over here, the term being intentional is a
Mm.
very popular word. So you have to make it part of your lifestyle. You have to plan for those meals. Um, you mentioned, your background, gymnastics, competitive
Mhm.
horseback riding, and then you talked about, Pilates and yoga. I think those are probably two disciplines that, and I may be speaking out of turn, but I don't think I am, that most, let's say, American athletic directors and coaches don't include in their, let's say, their workout. If they're doing a workout, what are some of the benefits? I'll ask a real Captain Obvious question here. What are some of the benefits of Pilates and yoga on overall health, wellness, and let's go and throw in performance?
Yeah, it's funny that we gravitate to what we're naturally good at, and I think like a lot of people when they're sort of naturally a bit tighter, I think men really do struggle with Pilates if it's like a lot of men that tend to be those in those positions. So yeah, I think it's the people who should be doing it, the ones who aren't. But so Pilates is really good. It's about sort of balancing the body, so it's working the sort of the stabilizing muscles rather than the global mobilizers. So if you are, especially really important if you're doing sport, because a lot of sport, especially if it's like one-sided, like racket sports, you're overusing one side. So you want to make sure that we're sort of balancing the body, a lot of core strength, and just making sure that that base is nice and stable for other movements. And people sitting in chairs all day, we know that that sort of results in lower back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain. So it's just correcting the posture. And then the yoga is good for like your flexibility, but also the mind body connection. And it's very much a moving meditation. And I think a lot of us are very much in our heads and we find it hard to sort of quieten down the mind. So just taking the time to slow down and regulate your nervous system, come into your parasympathetic system, which is that sort of rest and digest state, is really good for people who are sort of maybe type A personalities, like go, go, go. Just coming back and finding that the yin and the yang. So coming down a little bit and calming down as well.
As you just described me, I guess I need to start, adding Pilates to my program.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned a couple times the connection between, mind and body and overall health. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another one of your passions is, the psychology and the sports psychology. Um, you've got some cranky old athletic directors like me that are listening to this episode. What is your advice? What's your wisdom for that particular group on the importance of, and whether we want to call it psychology or mental health, mental strength, what can you say to those listeners?
Mm-hmm. Guess it's like about just being aware of like your thoughts and things like that. Like, a lot of people we've been taught, stiff upper lip, don't show emotions, but actually pushing emotions down and stress and things like that, they show up in the body quite often and it's not healthy. I'd say one easy way to do it is journaling, and it might sound a bit woo-woo to some people, but there's this thing called it's called morning pages sometimes, and otherwise people say just like just get out all the rubbish. You do it first thing in the morning, where before your kind of conscious mind's kicked in, and you just get some paper and you just write. You're not thinking about it, you're just getting stuff out, and you'll be amazed at what comes out. And it's just to get things out of your mind and out onto the paper. And you don't have to read it, you can throw it away afterwards. But that's quite an interesting way. Or just observing thoughts. Like, I think ACT is a form of third wave behavior therapy. So you've got like CBT, which is about sort of analyzing or looking at your thoughts, whereas ACT is about accepting your thoughts and allowing them to be there and allowing all emotions to be there. So rather than trying to change anything, it's noticing or seeing your thoughts as just thoughts and not allowing them or to stop you from moving towards what's important to you. So things like just going, oh, I'm having the thought that, whatever. Or if you're having emotions that you're trying to push down, trying to just let them be there because they're transient. If you just let them be there, let yourself experience them, then they will go on by and it won't have as much of an impact on you, on your mental health and your physical health.
Oh yeah, that is such great advice. I read somewhere, who knows, maybe it was in one of your posts, about, in
Yeah.
our minds, we create, these incredible
Oh,
problems and challenges rather than just in whether it's for an athletic director. Typically, you come into your office and you've got
yeah.
5 or 6 things planned for that first hour or two, and you've got 16 emails, you got 8 voice messages, and they're all telling you that this is crisis, you have to deal with it right now, and you're just going, oh, gee. So absolutely
Yeah.
great advice. Um, I'm going to turn the tables on you. You're the coach, you're the professional. Can you share an example of a challenge that you had? Maybe it was, in work related, maybe it's personal. We're not trying to dig too deep here, but you were able to meet that challenge and work through it because of some of the advice that you've been sharing with our listeners today. Can you think of an example where all of this, you could look back and say, boy, I'm really glad I'm doing what I'm doing? That really paid off.
Yeah, I think so. At the beginning of the year, I put together a program it was a 6 week sort of, it was January jumpstart. So it was about helping people sort of start and maintain their health and fitness. So it was an exercise program combined with weekly workshops, the psychology-based workshops that were based on sort of goal setting and motivation, overcoming obstacles, habits, sleep, nutrition, and maintaining progress. But I created this massive task for myself that I was having to do all the reading because I wanted to make each one really good, obviously. So I was doing all the reading, like building and developing and then delivering a workshop a week. And oh my gosh, the overwhelm, it was very stressful. And I just remember sort of I think I got into like I'd finished the first week or two and I just thought, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. But I think that's when I had to sort of make sure that I was sort of making sure I was going to sleep on time so that I was coming back to it fresh rather than trying to just work really late and sort of managing my own sort of stress levels with the breathing and the yoga and exercise. So yeah, I think that's probably the one time I sort of implemented it, and I'm very grateful for that.
And again, I'm sure you've done it many other times, but it's great to hear that, hey, these things, they really do work, and we're not just sharing some
Yes.
some idle thoughts. Jenny, we could go on for a long time. I'm just fascinated by the topic, and you do such a great job online. Let's go and talk about that. If one of our listeners
Thanks.
wanted to find out more, pick your brain a little bit, or just begin to follow you on social media, what's the best way that they can stay connected with Jenny Devonshire?
Yes, well, LinkedIn, you'll see lots of posts on there. So it's Jenny Devonshire, or on Instagram, which is Jenny C Devonshire, or my website is www.pause with a numerical 2 perform.com. Those are probably the best places.
Okay, well, we'll put that information in the show notes.
Perfect.
Thanks so much for sharing with us. We're going to designate you as a friend of the show moving forward. Appreciate
Yeah.
everything you do. And again, listeners, make sure you follow Jenny on Instagram, on LinkedIn. That's where we first connected. And check out her website. She definitely has some good information to share. Jenny, thanks again, and all the best moving forward.
Thank you very much.
For listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this every single week, and just about every day, we try to share stories and best practices for athletic directors, coaches, and leaders. So hopefully, you'll come back and join us again for our next segment on the Educational AD podcast. Have a great day. And that was Jenny Devonshire. Her website is Pause2, that's the number two, Pause2Perform. And make sure you connect with her on LinkedIn and Instagram. Before we go, we do want to thank our sponsors, particularly K-12 Sports Tech, who is the name sponsor for all of our Wednesday Wisdom segments, along with Gipper, Huddle, Hometown Ticketing, Home Campus, Sideline Interactive, Snap, Raise, Athletic Surveys, My Life Track, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, and the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.